Hello and welcome to the Irish Guys podcast. How we doing, fellas? Just me, Tom, and Big Dev in here today.
Getting on good.
You look tired, Christopher.
Wee bit tired.
Wee bit tired.
Our lady had me up late last night.
Aye. We are covering wrestling today, fellas. Doing a bit of wrestling. Us three obviously we've done a wee wrestling podcast before. It was one of our first releases. It was just a sort of general Royal Rumble style roundup Road to WrestleMania preview type thing.
Yeah.
So obviously we tune in a good bit to wrestling. Dev, you are again our resident wrestling head.
The road to WrestleMania looks odd. Goldberg's taking on the Fiend for the title.
Seen that wee update there?
I seen that there's apparently thousands of tickets still left that haven't been sold. That's how bad the outlook for WrestleMania is looking.
Serious?
And Mania?
Yeah.
I thought you meant the Saudi show.
Oh no, Mania itself.
Well, still a couple of months to go. It'll sell out.
It'll fill out, aye. Yeah. So the road to WrestleMania is looking a bit strange, Dave.
It's looking alright. Shayna Baszler attacked Becky. That's always fun. Like, want to see Shayna Baszler do her thing.
She looked good at the Rumble.
She did.
She did look good at the Rumble.
She came in and bit the neck of Becky, didn't she?
Yep, took a chunk out of her.
That was a bit strange.
I just hope they don't go for the vampire gimmick with her, because that would probably be a short end of her.
Get Gangrel, the manager. Brood 2.0. Brood reboot, we're women.
Well, Edge is back. All you got to do is get Christian back out of retirement. There you go.
The boys are back. No, so we decided that we'd do like a sort of a historical type wrestling podcast today. So we've decided to do our Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
A lot of people have sort of discussed their Mount Rushmores before. And
So this is our personal Mount Rushmores. I think we've all maybe approached it in different ways. We don't know each other's Mount Rushmores. Obviously, it's pretty damn hard to narrow down an entire company and businesses, history down to 4 wrestlers. But we're gonna try and do it.
Yeah, sort of the 4 that had the most impact and sort of had the reason why wrestling is what it is today, and founding fathers.
Founding fathers of wrestling, aye.
In our own opinion.
In our own opinion, because we'll get crucified for it, otherwise. We've decided to rank them too. So, we're gonna maybe start with 4th and work our way up to the top. Do you want to do it that way, fellas? Aye.
Yeah, we've ranked them 1 to 4, so we'll start off for a 4th, work our way to the top. We've also implemented a point system, so we can come up with an Irish Guys final 4 at the end for you.
Yeah.
Dave, describe the point system for us.
All right, Dave. Cheers. No, we decided obviously. So 4th gets 1 point, 3rd gets 2, 2nd gets 3, and then 1st gets 4. So
and then whatever wrestlers at the end of the most points, and that'll make the final 4.
We'll have our ranking system that way. So I've done mine. I might have to sort of explain the way I've done mine. I've done mine in a wee sort of special way to get a few people in my opinion, anyway.
See, I've left people out that should never ever be left out of a Mount Rushmore wrestling, and they're out, and I've just accepted it.
Well, we were talking last night. We were recording a podcast, and we were talking about wasn't it Bruno Sammartino? So we never seen him wrestle. Obviously he's got a massive legacy and stuff, but.
And just a disclaimer for anyone listening: Hulk Hogan will not be running wild over my top 4. I'll tell you that. Hulkamania is not there.
You're a hater, Dev. You're an absolute hater.
Hulk Hogan didn't even factor into my considerations.
Whoa.
Well, Hulkamania, biggest star of the 80s, but I wasn't alive during the 80s.
Hulkamania, yeah. I see. I'm not a massive Hulk, hater, but I wasn't really considered for mine either, to be honest.
I think that man's done more harm than good in the last 10, 20 years to the business.
But Hulkamania, Tom.
What of it?
Aye.
You don't have your own cartoon?
No.
No, it's hard, definitely damn hard to narrow it down to 4, like.
I've changed my top 4 so many times, so just decided just to leave it what it was last night, and then I looked at it again today and was like, is that what I decided on?
What the hell was I thinking? No, I definitely chopped and changed mine a little bit, but I thought I had a few guys in my head that I wanted in. And I hope you don't hate me too much, Christopher. You're obviously the resident wrestling head here, so
there could be a lot of hate dished out, but
this could get interesting. This podcast, real interesting. I think there's maybe a few people that might be on everybody's list. I'm just interested to see
in the order that they're in,
and sort of where everybody's went with them.
hoping everyone's number one is the same as my number one.
I know who your number one is, Christopher.
I have a feeling I know who your number one is.
It's pretty much nailed on, isn't it? Anyway.
Yeah, Goldust. Like. The rest of the world would not be where it is today without Goldust.
That's a fair point, Dave. You're a big Goldust man. Like. So, does anybody want to start us off with their fourth place?
I never start, so is it okay if I start?
You're investing start seat, like
you're in the start seat.
You may as well go.
Okay, so we're going from fourth
to first time.
Okay, fair enough.
So give us your fourth, then, Kirby. You can give us your fourth.
My fourth. You see, this was going to work well if I went from like top to bottom, but like, why not just go right? My number 4 is Mick Foley.
Ooh, that's an interesting wee shout. Okay, fair enough.
Mick Foley, lads. You know, he's not the most technically gifted wrestler that the business has ever seen.
Some most memorable matches, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But Foley, over the years, over the decades, he's just had a passion that very few others have sort of exhibited.
Yeah.
You know, he's had heated, powerful rants of of his Mick Foley to Cactus Jack character, and then he's had dark and despairing wails as Mankind. And then you got the utterly infectious tones of Dude Love.
I know a bit of Dude Love in my life.
Which one are you putting in, lad?
Just Mick Foley.
It's not 1 to 4. It's like when he entered the Royal Rumble 4 times, he got his talents and Mount Rushmore wrestling 4 times.
Have you put Mick Foley top to bottom here, Tom? Is this what you're trying to tell us?
Yeah, just Mick Foley. Yeah. But I'm sure we can all agree here that guy's gone above and beyond, like in the wrestling world, to like get all of his characters over the top and beyond.
Yeah.
And he's worked his entire career. Like I know every wrestler sort of goes out of their way for the fans' entertainment, but Mick Foley just pushed boundaries in terms of what he would do just to get us to clap, roar, cheer, cry.
Yeah.
All of the emotions.
Oh, plus, in a world whenever after the steroid scandal and things like that, where wrestling was trying to move away from the big muscly men. Yeah. He sort of introduced another body type into it too.
Exactly.
Like, arguably you wouldn't have Kevin Owens and ones like that sort of fighting at the top of the card before you didn't have Foley fighting at the top of the card.
Yeah.
He's just an unbelievable, like, obviously not a technically good wrestler in sort of any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
But just a man that would 100% put it all on the line and do whatever he was asked. Things that he probably wasn't asked to do. Obviously, the accident with him coming through the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Just a pile of stuff, a
man through the cheek.
Yeah. But literally, we've just covered it there now. But where he's lacked in regards to abilities in the actual ring itself, he's provided us with some of the most horrific acts of violence and carnage that have ever been put to broadcast by any wrestling promotion.
Like him and Triple H in a bloody violent match, like him and Undertaker with a bloody violent rivalry, and
he's been pitted up against some of the all-time greats, and just the matches and the moments and the highlights. Like
plus he had Rock's most gruesome match too. With the Rock,
the headshots. Yeah. Like I mean, there isn't a video package. Like sort of the whole "do not try this at home."
Yeah,
like
that 100% applies to Mick Foley.
Yeah, most of it's made up of his highlights.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just seemingly willing to put his entire body at risk just to put on a show for our enjoyment, and just he's provided endless amounts of that. And I suppose it would be remiss in me saying, like, we can't forget the big upset title victory that he had over The Rock on Raw, which made 600,000 viewers change the channel from WCW just to see Mick Foley's crowning moment.
Who was the commentator? Tony Schiavone. He says, like, live on the air, like, because it was taped at the time, Raw, and WCW was live. He had said live in the air, just like, Mick Foley's won the WWE title, who's going to want to watch that or something? And then like 600,000 people who were watching WCW all jump ship over to watch
that fair enough, that's really cool. Like, Mick Foley's a cool character, like, I can't argue with Mick Foley. Like,
I'm upset I didn't sort of think of him for my list.
I see, and I was thinking about it, I was trying to, this is why this is going to be interesting to see where everybody's came from on it. I tried to go with, like, I don't know. I'll try and explain mine when I get around to me, but I've tried to do it in a different sort of way. But it's good to like see the differences that we're gonna go for here. You know, that sort of way.
I've sort of went for people who had the most influence, but then I've left certain people out due to favoritism.
Yeah.
So
mine's similar to that too.
Well, I can't lie. This is a wee bit biased to me. I just love Mick Foley and all of his incarnations. I
love Mick Foley. I wish I should have put him in my 4.
He's a damn good shout, lad. I hadn't considered him because of. You don't consider Mick Foley the best wrestler of all time, but as we've talked about many times, even more recently, it's more than being a wrestler. It's being a character and being bigger than
just being
able
to get yourself over with the fans, get yourself hated with the fans.
It's a thing that's lacking. It's a thing that's lacking nowadays with all the technical wrestlers that they have. Sometimes the character work isn't. Yeah, it is entertainment. Like, and you need the character work.
There's a few characters, but not as many. Like.
Definitely not.
Plus one of the best entrance themes of all time.
Aye, unbelievable. Like, I mean, he's wrestled under the banner of WWF/WWE, WCW, ECW, TNA, NWA, and he's a WWE Hall of Famer at this point. Yeah. He's wrestled for so many promotions that even some of the other guys on my list haven't even accomplished that amount of promotional work. Like,
he got a sock over.
he got a sock over. Dirty.
Although Chris Jericho once got a pen over, so I
mean. Chris Jericho gets words over.
Funny story with Jericho. Like he said backstage to someone, like he was making a joke that he could get anything over, and he says, "I'm going to get this pen over." So he took it out to the ring room, and that's when the clicking of the pen started. Like,
that's what I'm telling you. By nowadays, the character work is just you need that level of like cheese and hatred, and you need all that there to make like a perfect wrestler. And one thing that you always got with Mick Foley is like when you knew Mick Foley was a bad wrestler, right? And like
he wasn't a bad wrestler.
He's not a good wrestler.
He is a good wrestler.
I think when he started putting on more and more weight, Foley sort of lost the ability to do some of the things that he was able to do early in his career. If you watch his documentary, you do see like his coming into the actual business itself. Mick Foley wasn't all that bad. He wasn't maybe, a Shawn Michaels type, but he could do enough to sort of showcase that he belonged there.
But I mean, you knew even when he was coming to the ring that he's not. I don't know who's a brilliant technical wrestler these days.
AJ
Styles or something. He's not AJ Styles, obviously. But you forgot all that when he came to the ring. You weren't expecting top rope, high flying, cruiserweight.
Plus, that's not what you want, like, because I mean, like, if every wrestler was AJ Styles, it would be boring. Like, you need that variety. Like, you need your big men, your smaller men. Your more hardcore men, your more hard hitting men, your stiff men.
Yeah, you do. You need a variety.
Like a real diverse cast. Crippy said this right near the beginning of like my actual pitch. In 1998, he was the only man to enter the Royal Rumble match 3 times. As Mankind, Cactus Jack, and Dude Love. He's headlined WrestleManias.
That was that McMahon in each corner match, wasn't it?
Actually, sorry, not WrestleManias, but just a singular WrestleMania. But all at the same time, that's a big achievement for any wrestler.
Yeah.
He's been a mentor to other wrestlers, ambassador for the company, commentator, and GM. Just gonna shortlist a wee bit of his injuries. Mick Foley, over the course of his career, has torn his ACL, broken 6 ribs. He's had his nose broken twice, broken his jaw. He's had 6 concussions, several teeth lost, and had over 300 stitches required over the course of his career, and just 2/3 of an ear ripped off.
Yes.
There's nobody that's put more on the line for the company, really, is there, than old Mick?
Aye.
Multiple world champion, tag champion, and the first ever hardcore champion.
Yeah.
So he was the inaugural champion of that actual division.
I love the hardcore belt,
which is very fitting.
Didn't get enough love.
It had to be Foley with that, and like, didn't it?
Yeah. His dedication is unparalleled. His contributions to the state of wrestling today is paramount. It kicked down the doors, as Crippy said, for the likes of bigger guys like Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
All these guys that didn't really fit the Vince McMahon prototype mold.
Big sweaty man.
Yeah, big sweaty.
Brock Lesnar.
He's introduced wrestling fans also like to hardcore in a way that was so unique and unheard of at the time he was coming up. and he literally had no rival within that sort of category of wrestling.
We all have an
And there was
appreciation.
him, and I would say
Maybe Sabu.
no, well, Sabu as well. I didn't even think of him. I was thinking of what do you call him? He's Chainsaw Charlie, but
Oh yeah.
what's his actual name? His wrestling name for his whole career.
What? Is it Dory Funk or
Terry Funk?
Terry Funk.
Terry Funk.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll round it off because I've just read it down this way. He's one of the most universally beloved wrestlers in the whole world, and in almost every arena, there's signs saying Foley is God. So if a president can get their face etched and immortalized in stone, then so too should a god.
Fair enough. That's a good pitch for Mick Foley.
That is a good pitch.
That's going to be better than any pitch that I make.
It's going to be better than all my pitches too.
Yeah.
I'm going to, try and shoehorn Foley in. I'll jump in here now, sure.
Sorry if that was too long.
No, all good, man. Dave, you're a company man.
I'm a company man, and my number 4 choice...
You're John Laurinaitis.
My number 4 choice is as company man as you can get. Would anyone like to guess at who the most company man out of all company men could be? Yes. My number 4 is John Cena. I mean,
I consider John Cena quite heavily, to be honest.
Yeah, Cena was one that, if it was my favourite 4, he wouldn't be in it. But, if it was sort of Mount Rushmore, he had to be in it.
Yeah.
And then because I was sort of trying to combine the both, he squeezed in at number 4.
Fair enough. I consider Cena too. Obviously, Tom, myself, well, actually more myself than you, Tom. I fell out of wrestling quite swift and didn't come back for the worst John Cena years. So I didn't catch the 5 moves of doom type repetitive him on TV all the time, and the sort of, that sort of the fans became tiresome of him.
Yeah.
And I never really caught that.
I think Crippy's...
And then in later years, we obviously, appreciate Cena for what he did.
Cena, even throughout his whole career, he's always had, sort of maybe a match that he wasn't motivated for, just an odd Raw match or something, it would just be his 5 moves of doom. But anytime he's on a big pay-per-view match against a good opponent, John Cena always, he's at some of wrestling's best wrestlers, best matches with them, it's...
Yeah. No, John Cena can do a match,
John Cena's a great wrestler when he's motivated,
when he's switched on, he really can go.
Yeah. He's the biggest recent star, and from Stone Cold Steve Austin, there's been no one bigger than John Cena,
Yeah. He carried the company for...
he's carried the company for years and years, up until maybe the last couple of years, where he sort of went away doing his movie thing, but he's also a huge mainstream draw.
Yeah.
Especially coming into the PG era and away from sort of all the violence and things. John Cena was the perfect man at the perfect time to sort of spearhead that.
I actually watched a wee thing about him, that Ruthless Aggression era that's coming out. He sort of did a piece on how he was actually going to be let go. I've seen wee advertisements for it, and he did a piece where he was going to be let go.
And it was actually Stephanie McMahon who heard him rapping on the back of
a bus.
That she ended up saying...
With Rikishi and stuff.
Yeah, she ended up coming up to him and saying, you should do that out in the ring, and that's...
the doctor of
thugonomics.
My favourite iteration of John Cena. I know, really... Do you know what's going to be cool, to be fair? It's going to be cool now when he's the returning John Cena now, when he's been off screen for so long, and he returns at a Mania or he returns at a Rumble, and he kind of does that sort of, certain appearances throughout the year.
He's coming back for this Mania, I believe.
Maybe not in a wrestling role, or
he's coming out to, I think, maybe announce an opponent, or to announce his plans for WrestleMania. So we might just be hosting it or something like that. But he'll definitely be at Mania.
But he's gonna get some pop now. The way there was always the sort of hesitant boos and the sort of hesitant cheers and all that there.
He's been getting some pops now for the last couple of years. Everyone sort of finally realised, right, John Cena's really good. Let's stop shitting on him.
Yeah, fair enough. So I seen it, Dave.
Well, he's arguably one of the best talkers, if not the best talker of all time.
You don't carry the company for that long.
He's up there on the list with your Austins, your Rocks, your Ric Flairs, Dusty Rhodes, your best talkers the business has ever seen. John Cena's right up there with the best of them. He's also right up there with the best workers and wrestlers that the company's ever seen. A modern era, he can keep up with sort of the smaller guys and put on a real match with an AJ Styles, and at the same time he can go out and have a big man match with a big show and everything in between. He's a great wrestler. 6'2", 251 pounds. So Vince is all over that.
Roided to the hilt.
But he's at some people's best matches, him and Shawn Michaels had some unbelievable matches. Him and Edge, some unbelievable matches. He's at Brock Lesnar's best matches. I honestly think that CM Punk, well, at least for WWE anyway, didn't have a better match than his matches with John Cena. Like,
yeah, the one at Money in the Bank.
Oh my god!
Legendary.
Like, it was just unbelievable. Like
45 minutes of just incredible.
I think when Kevin Owens debuted in the main roster and had that rivalry with John Cena, that apart from his matches in NXT with Sami Zayn, they've been Kevin Owens' best matches in the main roster, no doubt. Like, they had some of Daniel Bryan's best matches. He had AJ Styles' best matches when he came to WWE.
Yeah, that would have been a dream matchup for you.
Oh yeah,
when it was happening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even the likes of Seth Rollins, like when he's motivated, he's just unbelievable. Like John Cena can put on great matches with anyone. Like depending on size or anything, he can carry a rivalry. He's a great talker. He can do it all. I maybe don't have as much love for John Cena as I should, but he definitely squeaks in at number 4 on my list. If it was going all out on, impacting the business, he might have got higher. If it was going for my favourites, he wouldn't be in it. But, because I'm trying to accommodate the both, he had to squeeze in at number 4.
Fair enough.
So okay. John Cena, vice.
That's a good shout,
Can't dispute that.
Right, this is where I'm going to get...
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So let's see if this is Mick Foley, John Cena quality.
Right. I'm going to get a lot of... I've done something with the 4th spot. I've ranked mine top 3, okay? And I've done something with the 4th spot because I feel that it needs to be done. So I've went in the 4th spot, and I've used it specifically for this. I went with the most iconic wrestler, I think, of all time. So to get him in, right? And this is going to be bad because it's to get him in. But Stone Cold is in my 4th spot.
On your 4th spot?
He's in my 4th spot.
I don't know how to take that.
Dave.
Right. So I think...
Hold on a wee minute here. Just let me catch my breath.
Right, okay.
Right, carry on.
I knew this was going to happen. So, I think that he's the most iconic wrestler. Now, this is the Mount Rushmore, and I know that we're ranking them and all this sort of carry on, but it is like the 4, whatever it was, greatest presidents of the United States.
The 4 biggest impacts in wrestling, 4 greatest wrestling.
Now, nobody on this list, I think, has... So, even though he's 4th, right? On this list, he has the biggest impact of anybody on my list, I think. Mm-hmm. So even though he's 4th, right, he's the most iconic wrestler of all time. His character 4th lad, right.
This is
a shorter career than maybe some of these other fellas.
Not really. He's been going from WCW with what do you call them, the blondes, Hollywood blondes.
I do get
him and Brian Pillman.
Yes, okay.
I do get where he's coming from, though. I think he's talking strictly Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, I know that he was, what was it, the Ringmaster?
Well, what was it, 96 to 2003?
So,
round 95 maybe, to 2003?
Give or take, but you have to sort of factor in that Austin was gone for like a whole year at one point due to the
And even when he had sort of, as far as I can recall, now you usually know this better than me, but when he, and that sort of, like, early 2000s, his work had sort of went down. His in-ring.
Well, he had to become just basically a brawler because he wasn't sort of able to do a lot more of the moves that he used to.
Do you know what I mean? For me, a shorter peak at the top than everybody else, and I have here. Now, his achievements, we all know Stone Cold's achievements.
He's the biggest draw in wrestling history.
Absolutely. I mean...
he brought wrestling through its most popular period in wrestling's history.
I've probably won the Monday Night Wars myself more than anything. So definitely the most iconic. He had 4th lad. A shorter career.
This would need to be a great top 3 of wrestlers I've never heard of.
Mine's very controversial.
It's okay.
Unless it's Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, and I don't know.
None of them are on there.
Ric Flair.
Right. So I went with him at 4th because he's the most iconic. Probably won the Monday Night Wars for WWF at the time.
No probably about it, Dave.
No probably about it is right. Vince McMahon's man of the company, like he did put it on him quite, heavily at the time and all. We know all this. The best fusion of wrestler and character, I think, on my list as well, and probably ever. The sort of Stone Cold character along with his wrestling ability for me. He's got some stat. I wrote down a few stats here. He was the PWI at the feud of the year 1998-99, match of the year 97. That was with Bret Hart. 6 WCW titles, 6 WWF, WWE titles, 2 Intercontinental titles, 4 Tiger Runs, and 3 Rumble wins. Obviously, we know
4 US title wins, I think, too.
Fair enough. I maybe forgot that, Chris.
We're on
probably
WCW, but
the best fusion of character and wrestler out of anybody on my list, and probably, he's in the top 4 here. So, but I've used 4th for the most iconic wrestler, and I do think that he's the best out of
Should
the
number
best
one
feud.
not be the most iconic
No,
wrestler?
because I think who my number one is a better performer than him. So that's what I'm going for. I think that he did have good spells as a performer, when he was younger as the ringmaster.
If there was anyone better performing than Stone Cold Steve Austin.
There is.
I mean, it's completely subjective, all this. So.
Yeah. So he is fourth on my list. And I'm going to get a lot of heat for some of the two people that I put ahead of him here.
I'm just glad that he's on the list.
Yeah.
Oh, he's on. Lad, I had to get him
on
the list, and it's not that he's fourth. Like if you said top 4 wrestlers of all time, it's not an insult to, if you or whatever. At the same time too, it's just I used the 4th spot for the best overall. I think of like combination of character, but as an actual wrestler, his time at the top wasn't as long. When was the Stone Cold character invented? 1994 or 5? So when you think about it, his character itself maybe hadn't took off and only lasted maybe 5, 6, 7 years, whereas some of the other people on this list have a longer longevity of career and sort of things of that nature. That's why I have them ahead of him. But I do think that he's the best combination of character, as we've said. That it is more, and some people are lacking that these days. They don't.
Brian Pillman should have shot you with that gun, Dave.
So I have Stone Cold at 4th.
That's.
I'm sorry, fellas.
Well,
okay.
What's done is done.
Yeah.
I think we should move swiftly on, and I will better Dave when I bring Stone Cold up why he should be number 1.
Most iconic.
Okay.
Go, Tom.
Who's
your number 3, my good friend Thomas?
My number 3, I'm going to reiterate a wrestler that was just mentioned there, John Cena. John Cena is my number 3.
Okay.
I'll probably just rhyme off a few things that haven't been mentioned by Dev. He was a member of a class of wrestlers that included Batista, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, just to name a few.
Shelton
Benjamin's in there too. World-class athletes, all of them, and John was never really ever.
That's a crazy FCW class when you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
That'd be some of the biggest names in wrestling all coming out in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
It is insane, but as I say, John Cena was apparently never ever meant to be the guy, and he's even said this in his own words. Everybody that was surrounding him, all the guys that I've just mentioned, they had more buzz coming out of that developmental in FCW at the time.
Yeah.
Brock was always just he was gonna be the next big thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've
seen some really cool things with him and Heyman recently, we interviews and stuff that you boys probably have seen way more of, but Brock's massive.
He started his professional wrestling stint in WWE as the Prototype.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
that's right. I remember that.
An insanely blonde
hair and just in roll-ups. That was it. It was the roll-up gang.
This is why Cena was never meant to be positioned as the face of the company at the time. But as time rolled on, he adopted his character. As Crippy just recounted that funny story, Stephanie McMahon overhearing him rap in the back of a bus on like a tour of Europe.
It was.
She suggested that he worked that into his character, so he ultimately became the styling robber, Doctor of Thugonomics.
I love Doctor of Thugonomics, John Cena. Bring
He-
back the US
Prime
spinner
Cena.
belt.
He had a slow crawl up the card from then, and he won his first championship gold, which was the US title belt at WrestleMania 20 against the Big Show. So, a lot of people give the Big Show a lot of hate and stuff, but for a guy like John Cena, who had only been in the company maybe 2 years at this point, for him to go over the Big Show, that was probably, that maybe more so in the 90s that would have been a bigger thing, but even in the early 2000s, that was
that's
still
a big deal. Look,
Big Show was massive.
Let's not forget, Big Show once retired Hulk Hogan. I know it's storyline, of course, but he retired. So if Big Show could do that,
Big Show was a big draw too. Like he was in big in WCW as well.
He's still kind of going slightly. He was back a few weeks ago for a couple of tag matches and then pissed away off again.
Fair enough,
But of course, Cena's eventual push and the shot to be the main guy was spearheaded a year later when he faced JBL at WrestleMania 21. And I remember watching that live. I was actually really fortunate to watch that live. And just that moment, like just seeing his crowning, defining moment. Now, the match itself, it's very debatable whether it's good or not. I would say, with nostalgia goggles on, just the actual ending's great, but the match itself was pretty
I don't know. JBL matches get a lot of hate, but I quite find him entertaining. Like, he's so stiff, and there's just something entertaining about watching someone actually get beaten.
I just mean from a standpoint, I think the match itself only ran for about 10 minutes. And this is meant to be the second to last main event.
Yes.
So, thus began the Cena Nation that, we're all very aware of at this point. Things like, it just got very chaotic after that there. Cena would split crowds.
Yeah.
There was We Hate Cena t-shirts, We Hate Cena chants. Now even when he comes out,
let's go Cena sucks.
Yeah, well, that was always the thing. The worst reaction is no reaction, and he got both.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, if people care enough about you to hate you or to love you, they care about you. Like, but if it's just complete silence and no one cares, and that's the worst thing that can happen as a wrestler.
Yeah.
Per MVP.
He's insanely.
Per Dolph Ziggler.
Per Dolph Ziggler. Right now, it's so dead when Ziggler comes out. Makes you cringe almost.
It just upsets me.
That's hurtful.
Ziggler. We all know just where he went from there, the PG era, all that stuff. But he's been praised over time by his peers and even fans alike as one of the greatest talkers, as Crippy noted earlier.
Yeah.
The man is, I would go as far to say as he's unrivaled on the mic when he gets going.
Oh, aye.
Yeah, and I'm going to say
I love whenever he was like going at it with The Rock, and The Rock had like his notes written in his hand, what he was going to say.
I was just about to say it.
I see they called him out in it.
This is going to be my controversial moment of the podcast.
Okay, here we go.
I am not the biggest fan of The Rock. In fact, I'm probably not even what you'd consider a fan of the character at all. I mean, he's made me laugh at times, but overall, I'm just not a big fan of The Rock. But as Crippy was saying there, like, in regards to calling him out with the notes on his forearm and all that, that to me just spoke levels. And for those that don't know, The Rock, yes, he did his own promos and all that there, but they were written for him for the most part. The Rock just made it his own.
Yeah.
Which I suppose, takes a very special type of person to do.
Yeah.
But, anyway,
you can have all the best writers in the world, and if you can't get it across, you can't get it across.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we all know about the 5 moves of doom.
He added a 6th move. That
I
punch.
Don't know. Less said about that, the better.
I can't remember what it's called now. Oh.
But, Cena's worked consistently over the last couple of years. His US Open Challenge was one of the highlights of, like, the more recent sort of years in Raw. He's proved that he can, despite what the naysayers say, he can wrestle when he wants
can work with anybody.
No, aye.
He's held 25 titles.
Like, when he's motivated and it's a big pay-per-view match, no one does it better than Big Match John. Like, sometimes in a Raw match, like in a 6-man tag or something, you can see him do the same 5 moves he does every week, and he's not motivated.
He's insanely guilty of it. Like, even like the talking during the match, where he's like basically showcasing them, like what moves are coming next. You can actually hear him.
Irish whip, clothesline. It's a great job. Bring it down a few decibels.
But if I was to go towards maybe like his biggest accomplishments, it would be the fact that he's tied with Ric Flair now at 16 championships held in.
It's hard to match, like, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that alone basically guarantees him a slot in any Mount Rushmore for any wrestling fan.
He's not on mine.
Well, that's Dave, you'd noted a few of his PWI things, so no need to even go through them. I had them listed, but I suppose, like, this is another thing. It's not even wrestling related, but it does need to be mentioned because John Cena has went above and beyond for that Make-A-Wish Foundation. He's made over 600 wishes for, per
he's made the
kids.
Most in the whole charity. Like,
literally.
Any sports star or any...
He's the best person to ever carry the WWE in any way, shape, or form. He's better than Flair.
Mm-hmm.
I know it wasn't sort of WWE or F or whatever it was at the time. He was more the territories and stuff, but better than Flair, he's better than Stone Cold, he's better than The Rock, he's better than anybody that's done it and will do it probably ever, more so.
Yeah.
Great for media and, great crossover star. And,
I kind of feel sorry for him though, because he has to wear them god-awful t-shirts like a good percentage of the time.
Yeah, well, it's for the kids. But,
Here I am in my luminous orange t-shirt. I'm a man.
You can't see me.
I'm a man in my 40s.
Cena's kind of, Kobe-esque in that kind of sense. He's not different to The Rock, and but like he's kind of went on to do what like Kobe did in terms of like the basketball world.
Yeah.
He he went beyond basketball. He went beyond wrestling, that kind of way. And he's been forging a successful acting career. He's not on par with The Rock at this point, and I doubt he ever will be. But the fact that Cena has made the transition from wrestling, as I say, quite successfully into films.
He's literally in the new Fast and Furious, isn't he?
I've actually seen him in some of the films he's in. He
was meant to be really good in that Bumblebee movie. I never watched it, but
he's not bad in that. But he plays pretty much just a run-of-the-mill sort of military general type. So it's not really. But anyways, he's probably the most polarizing superstar apart from Roman Reigns, and he's just cemented a legacy that just can't be doubted at this point.
No, I know what you're saying.
Some of his incredible matches and rivalries, and he's up there. Like,
he's the main man now.
I think he just belongs on Mount Rushmore.
He got into number 4, and that was more logic than heart.
Yeah.
Heart would have kept him out. Logic would have put him higher up the list. So
there's a lot of heart. There's a lot of heart in my list. Right, big Kirby hit was for your third.
I'll jump in with my number 3, and my number 3 is. Do you want to have a wee guess at who the greatest in-ring performer of all time is?
Super Shawn Michaels.
Super Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid.
Yeah, okay.
The Heartbreak Kid comes in at number 3. As I said, he was the best in-ring performer of all time. 6 foot.
Hold on, you looked at me side roads earlier when I said that there's better in-ring performers than Stone Cold.
Aye,
exactly.
You said better performers. You didn't say in-ring. Shawn Michaels is the best in-ring performer. He couldn't hold a candle to Stone Cold on the mic, like. There's a lot more to performing in wrestling than just ring rock, Dave.
Okay.
So, faced. But Shawn Michaels, he was 6'1", 225 pounds, 4-time world champion. He was arguably actually better after his injury in 2002.
Yeah.
So he had a few years up until 1998. Where he was wrestling, and then he had that serious back injury where he thought he had to retire, and he took 4 years off, obviously, and came back in 2002. And some of his best matches were after 2002, although of course before he was having problems with drinking drugs and things. But some of the matches he was having then too, with his rivalry with Bret Hart's just legendary at this point.
Oh, iconic!
That 60-minute Iron Man match is still talked about all the time. Like
the Montreal Screwjob still being talked about.
The Montreal Screwjob. That's not overly a highlight of Shawn Michaels' career.
No.
But,
less to do with him, maybe, though, than anything.
I don't know.
He was in on it, like.
I don't know. I've watched and listened to so many different podcasts and, like, YouTube videos and stuff. It's up in the air what his involvement was. I think
how much he knew beforehand. I think he knew more than he would.
Shawn Michaels was a slippery
character,
Before he came back in 2002 after fighting God, though, he wasn't slippery then.
No, but you're definitely right there, Dev. I think Michaels 2.0 was definitely an improvement on his previous.
I didn't have the same sort of bad attitude, and
took it more seriously.
And it was more about sort of having better matches than having to win all the time, less politicking.
Yeah, less of a whiny douchebag.
In the second run. But just over his 2 runs, like, there was nobody who had a list of better matches better than Shawn Michaels. Like his matches, obviously.
Mr. WrestleMania, like.
Like his matches with Undertaker, Bret Hart. He had the first ever ladder match with Scott Hall. He had that great retirement match with Ric Flair, feud with John Cena. I mean,
Shawn Michaels does appear on my list, and I have a stat for him later, and it's a damn good one, like.
Shawn Michaels, he's just unbelievable. Like, he literally is the best in-ring wrestler of all time, bar none. Nobody can sell like Shawn Michaels. Although there's that hilarious match he had with Hulk Hogan, the overselling. But like, nobody could sell like Shawn Michaels. Nobody could wrestle like Shawn Michaels.
Did you know the reason that he did that was because Hogan had, previous to the actual match taking place, had agreed to like a rubber match or whatever. Like there was going to be one win for Hogan, one win for Michaels, and then they were going to like sort it out in like a third match. And I think it was going to go to Hogan, but whatever way the agreements went, Hogan then changed his mind, just wanted to have one match and have him win and that be it. And that's why Michaels decided, you know what, you have screwed me over, so I'm going to screw you over and embarrass you in front of a live audience.
Yeah, something about that match is still hilarious, though.
It is.
But no one sells better, no one wrestles better, no one can, he can wrestle. He can put on as believable a match with someone the size of the Undertaker, as of the smaller guys. Like in some great matches with Jericho, actually, that I didn't even write it down, but that whole Jericho feud was unbelievable. Like they were arguably Jericho's best matches that he had in the company.
Two very similar style of wrestlers there a little bit as well. That it can, I like we've
both
talked
of them
about
in
this.
their prime. Like they were just quality. Like
and
even in his later career, like them matches with the Undertaker, like at WrestleMania, were.
Well, they're just legendary at this point. Yeah.
That style of wrestler is my favorite type. Like me and you've talked about it a wee bit, Tom, but that sort of like style and build of wrestler. That sort of, remember, like there used to be like the light heavyweights.
Aye.
They're my favorite style nearly of wrestler.
It's funny when you look at wrestling now. Like Shawn Michaels been like 6'1" and like near 230 pounds or whatever. And him considered a real small guy back when he started, like,
and his frame.
Guy would consider now looking at him like he wouldn't be that small compared to a lot of the wrestlers about, like, that's how much has changed, like.
That's kind of the standard.
But he's like 6'1", like, but he echoed in that change, like, and he made wrestling, like, more sort of mainstream, that style of wrestling, like, smaller guys, more athletic matches, faster paced matches, instead of just 2 6'7" men built like shit houses slapping the shit out of each other for 15 minutes, like.
Will I go, or
anything
else, Dev?
That's all I have to say on why Shawn Michaels is number 3.
Right, here we go, back to the hit list. So, again, I've done mine a little bit differently. I went with most iconic at number 4, and then I went with the best wrestler, and for a point in time, never wrestled in the WWE.
Oh, I think I know who this is.
It's got to be AJ Styles.
Oh, you can't be on a Mount Rushmore. Like.
He can, Bev. He can. I'm going to tell you why.
For anyone listening out there, Dave loved TNA far too much.
No, like, look, TNA is, and it was said many, many times, TNA is the house that AJ Styles built. AJ Styles...
SmackDown Live was also the house AJ Styles built there, Dave. Get off it. It's only a catchphrase.
They're all a big catchphrases. AJ Styles is one of the best in-ring performers that I've ever seen. And he mightn't be Shawn Michaels.
He's unbelievable, but there's better.
I think on my list, I don't think there's many better. There's actually the only person on my list that's ahead of him that I would consider better is Shawn Michaels.
I'd put Jericho ahead of him. Prime Jericho, like.
Prime Jericho,
not
very,
now
very
Jericho.
good too. But AJ Styles has got a list of achievements that's absolutely unbelievable. He was probably one of the biggest mistakes WWE ever made.
Eddie Guerrero ahead of him.
Oh, well, okay, Dave. Behave yourself. So he's one of the biggest mistakes, in my opinion, that WWE ever made. Not signing him at the time.
He was at WCW, I think, in like 2001.
Yeah.
Right before it closed. He wrestled for them and then just never.
Squash match. Yeah. So he's wrestled all over the world as AJ, as we know. He's wrestled for TNA, he's wrestled for Ring of Honor, he's wrestled in New Japan, and he's won titles absolutely everywhere he's went. Put on phenomenal matches.
He was unreal in New Japan, like.
Everywhere he's went. He's at iconic rivalries everywhere he's went, and this is without, performing in the biggest stage up and until recently, where he's come in and done brilliantly as well. So, he's been in New Japan, Ring of Honor, TNA. He held 2 titles in New Japan. He held 3 in Ring of Honor. In TNA, he was a 5-time heavyweight champion, a 6-time tag champion, a 2-time television champion, a 6-time X Division champion. His change in his wrestling style over the course of his career has been phenomenal too, unlike his name. Coming in as sort of nearly like a cruiserweight / light heavyweight and dominating the X Division, which was absolutely outstanding. Coming in as that sort of high flyer, some of the moves they used to be able to pull off were absolutely ridiculous. Doing like a Stanton, I don't even know what the hell you would call it, but it's like a Stanton flip over the top rope with no run. Yeah. And like diving over the top ropes, being able to do that there.
He's unreal.
His athleticism in the early part of his career when he was younger was unbelievable, and that goes with saying that he was a 6-time X Division champion. Moving on into his later career with TNA and that, where he sort of became a little bit more physical. He still applies some of the high flying maneuvers that we see in WWE now, but it's trimmed down a good touch. Like he used to do the Styles Clash, maybe off the side of a apron through a table and stuff like that. They're technically one of the best wrestlers we've ever seen, and put on phenomenal matches.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Absolutely everywhere he's went.
But ahead of Stone Cold Steve Austin now, come off it.
I knew this was going to get a lot of it. He's at some
Who puts AJ Styles ahead of Austin? I just don't get it.
He's a better in-ring performer. He's had some unbelievable rivalries in the X Division with Chris Daniels. He's had some brilliant ones with Samoa Joe, Abyss, Showtime Eric Young, Kurt Angle, Sting, Kazarian. He obviously had a run at sort of the end of TNA with the Aces and Eights, that sort of whole faction when he came back, and this was when he had sort of got a little bit older, took some time off and changed his style a bit. In Ring of Honor with Adam Cole, baby, he had a massive rivalry with him as well. And the same in New Japan, he beat Okada. He had a rivalry with Shinsuke Nakamura. He's obviously then made the transition to WWE. He was the only wrestler, I think. Now, this maybe has changed, but he's the only wrestler that came in that didn't wrestle in the development of NXT. He came straight into the main card.
Gallows and Anderson.
Yeah. Gallows and Anderson, they come in
they
there
all
also.
come in together, and
Fair enough.
so they all come up together.
So he's had, 2-time WWE champion, 3-time US, and in his career he's held over 50 titles. As AJ Styles, he's won titles absolutely everywhere he's went. He's put on phenomenal matches everywhere he's went. He's wrestled the who's who of wrestling here. He's wrestled some of the best indie wrestlers, some of the best in Japan has to offer. He's wrestled everywhere, and he's number 3 on my list, and I hate all of you.
AJ he kind of fits the mold of that wrestler. You'd hear at the odd time being bounced around by different wrestlers. You could put AJ in into the ring with a broomstick, and he would make it look like a 5-star classic.
I've seen some things like, where he saved people. There was one.
Kenny Omega once wrestled, was it a 9-year-old girl? I think he took the pinfall.
But he's wrestled all these people absolutely everywhere. He's won over 50 titles in his career. He's the biggest mistake, in my opinion, that maybe WWE's ever made. And
see, I think AJ is unbelievable, and
just
I'm
because you have wrestled
but he
outside of the company for so long does not mean that you cannot make.
I'd put Kenny Omega ahead of him, and Kenny Omega's never wrestled in the company.
No,
Kenny Omega, I think, is a better in-ring wrestler than AJ Styles.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
I don't know. I have a very controversial opinion on Kenny Omega, but I suppose the less said about that, the better, because I don't want to get serious hatred pumped towards me.
AJ Styles is my number 3.
See, I love AJ Styles, but he didn't even get anywhere near my short list or honourable mentions or anything. Like,
you're a company man, Dev. You're John Laurinaitis.
I love him because my exposure of AJ, I watched early TNA, kind of like you. Well, actually, I suppose maybe you.
I'd like to just put it out there. The TNA as sort of became somewhat of a laughing stock at different times, and sort of became a sort of Christian is wrestled in TNA. Booker T is wrestled in TNA. There's a list
Mick Foley?
Mick Foley has wrestled in TNA. The Hardys have wrestled in TNA. Sting has wrestled in TNA. There is a list of who's who on that. Booker T has wrestled in TNA.
Let's stop throwing 50-year-old Sting around. Like,
what I'm saying is that these people have wrestled in the show, and he has wrestled against.
TNA was good for a while. Like, it was getting a real following and things, but then it sort of died off. And
I think he's the best wrestler outside of the main company that there ever has been, and then he's went to the WWE and did fantastically well there too.
I know, because I think he's a fantastic wrestler and all the rest, but just he's not great in the mic. He's a great wrestler, but there's been better.
I don't think there's been many better. There's only one better in my opinion.
I truly believe like he was the best leader of the Bullet Club faction in New Japan.
I like you, Tom.
You could say all you want. I know Finn Balor,
Finn and Kenny, and him were all sort of in close.
Like I understand Finn started the Bullet Club, but it was only when AJ came in and ousted Finn out of the club and took over. That's when the Bullet Club really hit their peak. I mean, you can say all you want about Omega, but Omega wasn't near close to being the leader that AJ was for that group. And even I think
although I think it was at his most popular when Kenny was the leader.
The reason that I don't have him higher or whatever is that I know that he has some shortcomings on the mic, but I think as an in-ring performer, as you said, Tom, you can put him in against a cruiserweight. He'll make a match of it because of the 6-time X Division, and obviously when he was younger, just that transition as well, I think, of being like a high flyer.
He can wrestle anyone, that's 100%. Like, Brock Lesnar's one of his best matches, like him and Brock had a great match, like, and then, he can go out with someone like Ricochet and tear the house down, like Daniel Bryan.
His versatility is unbelievable.
It's not that I'm disagreeing with, it just... Mount Rushmore, like top 4 of all time, I don't think so.
He's got over 50 titles.
I can see the argument for it. I'm not going to lie. I think the placement of him over Stone Cold, but then again,
I've said that this 4th spot, I've ranked the other 3, but it's nearly the 4th spot's the top spot, but it's not because of the way I've wanted it to go. It's the 4th spot's the most iconic. I think that has done the most in ring, the best character, the best overall, probably.
Plus, there wasn't much better in ring than Austin. Like, if you think about some of the things he was like the double turn, like like wrestling has just been storytelling in the ring, like is there a more iconic moment and like an in-ring moment than the double turn? Like I don't think so. Like again, him passing out in a pool of his own blood, like and
it's hard.
Austin in this here, as I've said, most iconic with the best like crossover between character, storyteller, wrestler. But I mean, just as I've sort of went with pure wrestlers a little bit. And then there's going to be another. And then I'm going to throw the whole thing out the window when I say my next one. So go ahead. We'll go to number 2 because
your next one's more controversial than AJ, like.
Maybe.
Okay, go on, Tom.
Okay, my number 2 is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay.
That's grand. I'll take number 2, but I'll not take his number 4.
He would be my number 1, but when
I know that we do this combined thing at the end, like a few of my guys aren't getting in. So
when I say my number 1, it'll probably be understandable why. But I just want to clarify: Stone Cold is my favorite on this list. He's perhaps probably
AJ's my favorite.
Stone Cold's probably my favorite wrestler of all time.
Don't look at me like that, Christopher. This is my list.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
So, glass breaking.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Aye.
For unquestionably the loudest crowd pops.
Oh, the biggest pop I've heard
in the world
about the last year has been when Austin showed up on Raw, like, and that glass popped and the roof just lifted off the place, like, just like, still getting the loudest pops, like.
There isn't a single wrestling fan today, or perhaps even non-wrestling fans, that don't know his name. He's synonymous with the business. He's pushed it into unprecedented heights during the Attitude Era, the Monday Night War, and he's perhaps the sole reason WWE exists today and not WCW. He was active during a time when the WWF was undergoing its most lucrative years in terms of business,
and also simultaneously its biggest struggle too, probably.
Yeah.
Competing directly.
It was probably his character alone that catapulted them into this absolute stratosphere.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a professional wrestler, a producer, actor, television host, and he is also a podcast host.
I love his podcast too. Like,
I'm never getting on his podcast because I've got him 4th.
I did. Like, putting Austin anywhere below the top 2, like, is I just don't get it. But we'll,
Okay.
Well, we'll leave that.
I'm just going to read out a quote from his friend, but also wrestling journalist, Wade Keller. You probably know.
I know Wade Keller. He does a podcast from sometimes.
Yeah, he's remarked that Austin, in quotations here, in every conversation for the greatest wrestling act of all time, as well as the most profitable and the most influential. I think that's the best way to sum up this guy.
Yeah, just literally the biggest thing in wrestling.
He broke the glass
obviously
ceiling.
The 4th biggest thing in wrestling.
Most iconic on my list.
He's gone from his early years as stunning Steve Austin.
He was the ringmaster, wasn't he?
Yeah, he went to the ringmaster, and then finally the cold-blooded rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the man who defined a generation of fans.
What was the show he took that from?
It was, I think he was watching, it was like a documentary on an actual serial killer.
Stone Cold Killer or something.
And his wife came with like tea or something and said, "Oh, make sure you drink that before it goes stone cold." And that's how he cold into his name. Okay, he's not AJ. He hasn't held 50 titles, but he has held 19 over the course of his career, which include the World Champion, Tag, US, and Intercontinental. He's won a King of the Ring tournament when the King of the Ring was actually something huge. Worth winning.
Yeah.
That's from 316.
Yeah.
3 Rumble wins as well.
Yeah.
Whipped your beep.
Yeah. It's probably the moment that Austin became Austin.
Yeah.
Plus, did they not have 3 headlining WrestleMania in 4 years?
I think so, yeah. I've just noted here, Dave said it earlier, he won 3 Royal Rumbles, which to this day has been unmatched, and I hope it remains that way because Austin deserves to hold on to that record.
Because I don't like people overtaking like significant records, and it's like
Cena will ever overtake Rick. They're tied, like.
That could be a brilliant way to end that man's career. Have him like come back for like a year and be like, my
Cena
thing
says personally though he doesn't want to overtake Ric Flair's record.
But I think he's the one. I think he's the one. On my list. He's the one guy that's still sort of hanging about that sort of deserves that accolade.
I would give it to John Cena. No doubt about it.
I would let him have it.
I'd let him come back. I'd let him come back for a period of time and say like, I'm coming back, and let him say, come back, I'm coming back for a year to beat Ric Flair, but let him do like like a build up. Like I have to work my way. So he has rivalries throughout the year where he has to like challenge the best guys the whole way up to the top, and then let him do it at Mania, and let him walk away and just
walk into the sunset.
Yeah,
I think Charlotte might actually take her dad's record before she
right. Okay, but we're not talking about Charlotte.
I mean, it goes without saying, his iconic rivalry with Vince McMahon.
Aye.
Oh, aye.
For, I think, the better part of 2-3 years.
Biggest storyline on TV.
It's still relevant.
Yeah, I mean, I still go on YouTube and check out the old clips of, like, maybe the bedpan in the hospital, or, like, the gun that just shot out of a thing that said bang, and Vince pissed himself. The beer truck.
What do you call it?
The endless stunners.
Yeah, just shenanigans.
The fact Vince couldn't sell the stunner. For a man who took so many of them, you'd think he'd have learned how to sell it.
He folded. But, like, you know, again, the Hulkamaniacs are going to hate me for this, but, you know, it is down in the official record books. Austin outsold Hogan. He's outsold pretty much every wrestler that's ever came about. I'd say maybe with the exception of Cena, who in more recent times has probably broken maybe even that record. But, you know, at the time, you know, considering the amazing buzz that wrestling had generated in the early 80s, for Austin to come in the 90s where maybe wrestling was sort of losing its footing a wee bit, and he just shattered all, you know, box office records and merchandise sales. He just tore shit up.
Plus his whole crack with Mike Tyson was great too.
Like I mean, he's done it all. You know, as Dave said, relatively short career at the top. Austin's even acknowledged this himself. But what a run!
Yeah, unbelievable.
You know, he's main evented many of the company's pay-per-views. He's headlined 3 WrestleMania matches, 14, 15, and 17, and 2 of them were against his most probably iconic rival, The Rock.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of The Rock, but the 2 of them together is just absolute magic.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the toughest SOB in the world. And you know, when he went out at WrestleMania 19, he went out in a real quiet sort of way. Nobody knew that was his last match. I don't even think The Rock knew that was his last match, because maybe not everybody knows this, but the day before Mania, or the day of Mania, like 19, Austin had been in the hospital because he had collapsed in an elevator in the hotel.
Right.
And for that man to come out of the hospital merely hours later and then go in and wrestle a WrestleMania match, a lot of people could probably say Austin wasn't at his finest during that match, but that's actually probably my favorite of their 3 matches.
Yeah.
Maybe just because of like what it meant, you know. But yeah,
the size of it.
Austin's my number 2.
Dev.
Well, my number 2 is my favorite wrestler of all time.
Here we go. What? He's not your number 1?
What? Are you serious? No way.
Okay.
So the dead man, the Undertaker, takes my number 2 spot.
I can't believe he's number 2.
No way. I can't believe that.
But that's where, you know, logic came in over heart for my number 1, who is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay.
But my number 2 is the Undertaker. So the Undertaker.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, sorry, Dev. Oh, okay.
The Undertaker is arguably the GOAT. Like, you know, his career's still going at the minute. You know, he's probably going to come back for another Mania match just for the crack, just because he can.
Yeah.
You know, he's been going on now from 1992. He made his debut. So what's that? 27 years. Mantle. He went 21-0 at WrestleMania, a record that'll never ever even be close to being broken.
Nope.
Obviously the man's 6'10", 309 pounds, and I don't think there's a wrestler in the world that was more sort of respected by other wrestlers than the Undertaker.
Yeah.
He really was the locker room leader. Like, did you hear about, you know, the old thing they used to do, Wrestlers Court?
Yeah, and he was the judge and jury, basically.
Judge and jury of Wrestlers Court.
Yeah.
So, you know, for anyone listening who doesn't know, basically if wrestlers were like messing around or, you know, done something wrong, they would be brought to Wrestlers Court, and Undertaker would like dish out punishments, and it would usually be things like, you know, buying the beer for the senior wrestlers, so they'd have to go and buy, like, say, JBL and Fruit's beer or something like that.
He kept the locker room and checked it out.
Yeah, and Vince let him. Like, that was his. Like, Vince was happy for
even just in sports.
Undertaker, even with people who would go up to Vince with problems that Vince didn't want to handle, he would say go to the Undertaker. Like, the Undertaker was the locker room. He was the captain of the team. Like,
what do you call it? That happens in sports so much to say that the best teams, the manager doesn't run the changing room, the players run it themselves. Apparently that was what it was very much like for Alex Ferguson. Apparently, like, they knew that Alex Ferguson wouldn't be happy, so they didn't let anything go out of, so same for Vince and Undertaker.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Undertaker sort of knew the do's and don'ts and the rules, and he was been there for so long, and he basically just ran. Anyone who had any problems went to the Undertaker. If you had a bad match and you combined the curtain and Undertaker was giving you that stare, you knew you had a bad match, like, or you had a great match and Undertaker was coming over telling you to he's almost like a mini Vince, like, he's running to the place, like. But he's just an absolute legend. Like, he's respected by all the wrestlers, by all the fans. He's a 7-time world champion. He's the most singular, iconic character in wrestling, like, but for actual character, like. He's had some of his best matches included his rivalries with Triple H. And like his Mania matches with Triple H were fantastic. His Mania matches with Shawn Michaels were the best matches in Mania history. His matches with Mankind, obviously, where you were talking about earlier. Him and Mankind were legendary. Like, their Hell in a Cell match, crazy. Like, obviously his matches with the teaming with and against his brother Kane. Kane's another great character. Like, I wish I could put him into but I could everyone in. Brock Lesnar, like the match he had with Brock at Mania, like, one of Brock's best matches. Where he lost the streak, as shocking as it was a real good match. Like, and even his whole like run as the Ministry of Darkness when he like crucified Stephanie McMahon and things like that, and going against Austin and things. Like, it was very out there, but entertaining nonetheless. Who was in the Ministry? It was him and the Brood.
It was him. I think the Brood were kind of like an offshoot of the Ministry.
They had been brought in after.
You had Mabel or
Farouk.
Viscera. I think you had the Acolytes before they became the
APA. Before the APA, like Farouk and Bradshaw.
I think he even had like weird people like
Edge.
D'Lo Brown and stuff.
That was with the Brood. Brood's Edge, Christian, and Gangrel.
Wonderful.
So they all come in, but that was an entertaining time. And just the Undertaker for his longevity. Like, he came in 1991, 1992, and he came in at the top of the card, and he has been at the top of the card. He is still at the top of the card 27 years later. In terms of longevity, there's not much more than that there. Like, Undertaker still comes out, and like, as much as he's sort of not as good as he was, and he sort of declined a lot now. Like, see when that dong hits, like, I still get the chills. Why he just there he is. In closing, The Undertaker is number 2 in my list.
I can't get over that. I really thought that was your number 1 pick.
Yeah, I thought that too.
He was my number 1, but then he had to get bumped down. That's where Logic took over. Is like, obviously Logic didn't have much play in Dave's. Because,
what do you mean? This is my list, Dave. This is my list. And speaking of my list,
so who's your number 2, Dave?
Right.
Is it Carlito Caribbean Cruise? I'm spitting the face of people who do not want to be cool.
So my number 2
is Carlito.
Similar in the fact that it's a longevity thing. It's an iconic thing, and again, there's a theme here. I went with another great wrestler that for a long period of time didn't wrestle in the WWE, and I went for Sting.
Yes.
Yes. See, that's a lot more understandable. Sting's in my honourable mentions. He was on my list at one point and then got dropped out, as was Goldberg, and then he got dropped out.
Yeah.
But, Sting, I will accept Sting. Sting is perfectly fine.
I'm happy to hear he made somebody's list.
Yeah, I went for Sting.
But for God's sake, how can you put AJ Styles in the same list with Undertaker and flipping Stone Cold and Sting?
Because AJ Styles is a better wrestler than both of them. Better wrestler. And he's got 50 titles. I'm going to keep banging that drum. Right, so Sting, we all know about Sting. He was another iconic character in our childhood.
Just
as
below
well.
Sting, just above The Undertaker. Of Austin. I keep saying The Undertaker now. You've got me broke, Dave. You've got me real broke right now.
He's the best wrestler other than the other fella I have on my list. Anyway, So Sting, we all know he was an iconic character in our childhood as
Surfer
well.
Sting,
Surfer Sting, Surfer Sting, and his rivalry with Ric Flair. So like obviously
your favorite, Dave?
Not my favorite, but a lot of people's favorite. Obviously, probably the most decorated in form. 16 titles. And all
the fact Ric Flair didn't make my list is a disgrace.
So no Ric, but obviously Ric had his status and everything, and he was putting on regular, consistent, and good matches with an up and coming Surfer Sting. So that was for a long period of time.
Right, that time Ric Flair was the best wrestler, before sort of the Shawn Michaels and the Bret the Hitman Harts and the Stings all really come onto the scene. Yeah. Ric Flair was the best wrestler.
So
him and the Steamboat.
The rivalry, yeah.
So this was obviously in sort of late 80s and then into the early 90s when the NWA switched over into the WCW. And obviously he had massive rivalries with Ric Flair, and they were putting on consistent matches together all the time. And
come on, Dave, talk about his TNA run.
Oh, that'll be there. Don't you worry about it.
You gotta mention Joker Sting.
Two NWA titles, and then as we've said with the Monday Night Wars and the sort of way that Stone Cold carried the business for the WWF WWE brand, Sting at this point was carrying
all the weight
of WCW on his shoulders as well. There was the NWO at the time, obviously, when he transitioned into the Crow, basically.
The NWO.
The NWO, and NWO was one of the biggest...
vigilante-like character, where he hid up in the rafters with his bat and...
sort of a tweener as was Stone Cold at the same time, because he was portrayed as an evil-ish kind of character, but on the good side of the people, nearly like a vigilante Batman type figure.
Yeah, real anti-hero type.
Anti-hero type as well. They nearly come across the best. Obviously he had his big match rivalries with the NWO, and to follow on with his feuds with Flair. So all through his career, he's been a major point. He was the main man in WCW. That's just it. He was the company there.
Goldberg, Hogan, all sort of up there, but I
can't remember what was the name they used him. Was it I can't remember, but he was in WCW circles. He was the Undertaker, if you like, of the WCW, basically.
Maybe he wasn't the franchise Shane Douglas, but who?
Very little people are.
So obviously had 8 WCW championships. He held 2 US titles and 3 tag titles. He then left when the company folded. He left and moved to TNA, where he sort of went in with the Main Event Mafia with Booker and Kevin Nash and stuff, and he won a few TNA titles.
There we go.
5-time TNA, 5-time young a bit. He won 5 TNA championships as well, but a longevity of a career as well, a long career. Obviously, then made his way into the WWE, and that is one of the biggest pops you'll ever hear.
I think we watched that Survivor Series live, me and you, Dev. I think we watched his initial debut, and I mean...
That's where he got Ziggler the window thing.
Yeah, we jumped out of our seats.
When Sting walked out onto that platform...
I'm happy that someone put Sting in their top 4. He was on my short list. He was in mine and out of mine, and I'm happy he made someone's top 4.
Yeah.
That's not the one I'm disappointed in.
Well... I'll say it again, Sting's not a better wrestler than AJ Styles.
Anyway, say Sting maybe is a better wrestler than AJ Styles, as is Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero.
No, they're not. They couldn't put on high-flying cruiserweight matches in the X division like, AJ could.
In that case, Rey Mysterio.
Hey, I resent that.
So I put Rey Mysterio ahead of AJ Styles.
An iconic career also as well. Has Sting as well, the longevity, and just an unbelievable character. To rival The Undertaker, so disappointed that never happened. I know that it would have been 2 old men in the ring and probably couldn't have went for any length of time, but
just for the iconicness
of it. I know that The Undertaker was
here. We did get Undertaker versus Goldberg. The rivalry everyone wanted to see.
So we didn't get Undertaker Sting, which is very disappointing. And
yet,
well, now it'll be 2 very, very old men wrestling. But Sting, Hall of Famer as well, and unbelievable. Probably the other mistake that WWE made as well. I know that he had some. He was harboring some reservations because he was so loyal to WCW. But Sting at number 2 for myself.
Tom, would you like to give us your number 1?
Just as a wee side note there, had the wrestling if Mount Rushmore had 5 faces, Sting was actually my outside guy.
Okay.
So he was.
Sting's in my honorable mentions list. I just listed a few names down, and Sting's number 5 in it.
Because I'm one of them weird guys. I was a WCW guy growing up.
Yeah.
My mum wouldn't let me watch WWE.
We'll probably have to be a wee bit quicker with these ones because we're an hour and 8 minutes in. And...
They're probably all mentioned.
Oh, don't worry. Yeah, so my number 1, it has to be Taker.
Oh.
It has to be Taker.
You're not a real fan, Dev.
I mean...
Well, we and Tom have just switched our number 1 and 2 spots around.
That's so weird. That is so weird.
Yeah.
Right.
So your favourite was your number 2 and my favourite was my number 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Dev has said pretty much all that needs to be said, so I'll just bullet point most of my notes here.
Go ahead.
He's widely regarded by fans and critics alike as the greatest superstar of all time, wrestler / whatever way you want to describe him. Right. He's at the tip top. He's just
character work is unrivaled.
Yeah, he's stood the test of time. Taker just needs to be the face of Mount Rushmore, the top guy on the Mount, the first guy, whatever the first president is, he's that guy.
Okay.
The evolution of his character, it's just been a journey. He's wrestled as long as Ric Flair had when Ric Flair retired. It's been 36 years going. And it doesn't seem to be showing any real significant signs of ending because, as Crippy was saying, he comes in every year and maybe he's lost it a bit and, he's more of a frail sort of man as opposed to what he...
His last match was quite good. It was a few months ago, him and Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre and Shane O'Mac. But it was actually quite entertaining.
Well, I suppose in a tag team element, he could sort of disguise
Get the Brothers of Destruction together for one more run.
One more go.
Kane actually come back recently too. Not as Mary Kane, as Kane.
Oh, really? He's featured sparingly on WWE now. I think recently he's showed up maybe more than just the once a year at Mania type of thing job. But, as Crippy was saying, his WrestleMania records unparalleled. It'll never be matched. It'll never be broken ever. If they did such a thing, it would be absolute heresy. He's
what other wrestler would have the longevity to have 21 WrestleManias and win at them all?
I mean, to say that he's beaten Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, John Cena, Triple H, CM Punk, and Batista, to name a few at WrestleMania.
Well, as Mark Henry, Giant Gonzalez.
Well, you don't really think of those ones.
Ultimate Warrior, was that one? I think so. Big Boss Man.
He
once hung Big Boss Man.
He did. He's proven time and time again that the Undertaker persona will stand the test of time. The Undertaker character is going to live on even when Taker himself passes.
There's going to be a really weird funeral there, isn't there?
There is. Yeah. And he's undergone some of the most radical character changes that any one superstar has ever underwent. He's went from a mortician.
Sting.
Well,
surfer dude.
Debatable. But he's went from a mortician to an undead zombie, cult leader, dark gothic priest, American badass biker, and then back to being a dead man.
Fair point.
So, his domain is WWE. He's synonymous with the company. His friendship with Vince is, it's not the most notable thing in WWE. It's kind of under the surface. You don't really get too much of a glimpse into it, but you can tell just how much respect that the two men have for each other, and I think that's amazing. He's held 17 championships, but he's never ever going to be remembered for these titles because of just the sheer weight of his character.
Yeah,
he never needed a title.
Yeah, needed a title, no.
If as Kirby was saying earlier, you don't talk about his title wins, you talk about his matches, his moments, his
rivalries.
Yeah, all of those things collectively. And,
crucifixions.
It's a testament that Mark Calloway, Taker's real name.
Shout out, by the way, to Paul Bearer.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Mark Calloway has done something that probably in our lifetime and probably, for decades to come, no one's ever going to be able to do what he's done with a character that shouldn't have worked as long as it has.
Yeah.
But he's made it last and just go beyond all sorts of expectations.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Everything that sort of you covered, Dev, I can't really say no more because Taker. It's
Taker.
It's Taker.
Yeah.
My number one, I'll just go very quick because it's already been mentioned twice, is Stone Cold. He's the GOAT, best talker, one of the best workers, career full of memorable moments, 6-time world champ. Some of his best moments, WrestleMania 17, Rock versus Austin. Of course, the What chant. Austin and Mike Tyson filling up Vince McMahon's car with cement, riding the Zamboni to the ring, the Austin 316, his fight with Booker in the shopping centre, driving the beer truck to the ring, crashing his own funeral. That was a personal favourite of mine. Whenever the Rock, I think it was the Rock threw him off a bridge or something.
Oh yeah.
And then he turned up to his own funeral in a monster truck. Just that is double turn with heart. Just in general, Austin is the GOAT and should never be number 4 and should never be behind AJ Styles. And AJ Styles shouldn't be on your list. And I love AJ Styles. But what the fuck are you thinking, David?
Best wrestler outside the company ever.
It's not even.
Yes.
Punk was bigger, like.
Punk's not a better performer than AJ Styles, and I'll not have you say it. Not have you say it, Dave.
I'm just going to stay quiet in the matter.
I would give it to him, but that's just me.
I'll then give my number 1 spot to the best wrestler in-ring performer of all time, which is Shawn Michaels. He's ahead of AJ Styles for me. But I think I think they're the 2 best in-ring performers of all time. Just
That'd
because
be a
of
dream match.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. In prime, both of them will be a dream
just
match.
Just because they were both high flyers. I really
don't
appreciate
say it's a dream match because Vince will bring a 56-year-old Shawn Michaels out and stick him in there with AJ Styles and give him 35 minutes.
I thought it was going to happen.
They could do a 60-minute Iron Man match and I believe it.
It's feasible.
So I'm going to just round this because we've all talked about all these guys so much. There's been obviously a bit of repetition in here with a lot of the guys being repeated, but I'll just say Shawn Michaels I think is the best in-ring performer of all time, and I'll use one stat to back it up, and this is why he's first on my list. Shawn Michaels is the PWA Match of the Year 1993 with Marty Jannetty, 94 with Razor Ramon, 95 with Big Diesel, 96 with Bret Hart. He obviously then had his hiatus. He had it in 04 with Chris Benoit, 05 with Kurt Angle, 06 with Vince, 07 with Cena, 08 with Flair, 09 with Taker, and 2010 with Taker. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 11 Match of the Years in a career.
I would argue with that in May. When I brought that up, Shawn Michaels is the best in-ring performer of all time, bar none, bar no one. And AJ Styles couldn't lace his boots.
That's a dream match for me. But so that's our 4. We'll quickly maybe try and do a wee total here. How many points has Undertaker got there for you two, man?
Undertaker's
just go through it
again. Well, it's 4th 1, 3rd 2, 2nd 3, 1st 4.
Well, my number 4 was Cena, so he gets 1 point.
Cena.
My number 3 was Shawn Michaels, so he gets 2 points.
Yep.
My number 2 was Undertaker, so he gets 3 points. And then my number 1 was Stone Cold, he gets almost 4 points.
So we've got 4 there. Tom, you have Taker in yours.
Taker was my number 1.
So 4 there.
Austin was my number 2.
So 3 there.
Cena was my number 3.
2 there.
And Foley was my number 4.
We were very similar, Tom.
Yeah.
Minus Shawn Michaels and Foley, like.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I have Shawn Michaels. What was Shawn Michaels in yours, Tom?
He wasn't on
It wasn't on mine.
Was he on yours?
Yeah, it was my number 3.
So he's your number 3, so he got 2 points there, and he got 4 from me. And then Stone Cold gets 1.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Stone Cold's not going to end up on top of his list.
So I think Stone Cold ends up top with my 1 point, Dev. So him and Taker were the breaker there. So Stone Cold ends up top with my 1 point. So it was a tiebreaker between you two men. So it's worked out okay here, fellas.
Yeah.
So Stone Cold's top.
Taker didn't even make your top 4. How long? AJ Styles made your top 4 over the goddamn Undertaker.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was between him and Sting.
I'm gonna storm out before we finish recording. Like.
It was between him and Sting, lad, and I had to go Sting. Sting needed the love.
Why was it between him and... Was AJ Styles automatically just in?
Yeah.
Was there no discussion there?
Taker's number 2 on this list. With
for the greatest impacts that people have had in the company, AJ Styles, really? Would be the greatest impact in TNA. It's dead.
He carried TNA. He's wrestled in Ring of Honor. He's wrestled all over the world, and he's got 50 titles. None of these other fellas have 50 titles. I would just like to put that out there. So I'm gonna have to work out who finished. I think it's gonna be Cena, fellas. I think that's a pretty good. list. So, hold on. Well, it's a tie between Sting and Cena because Sting gets 3 off of me. So Cena got 1 off of you, Christopher. 2 off of you, Tom. So the way our thing has worked out.
Cena was on 2 lists. Probably have to be Cena then over.
Yeah, probably. So the way it's worked out, for people still listening.
For the Irish guys, Mount Rushmore combined.
Yeah, we have Stone Cold with 8 points. So Stone Cold is our
number 1
top guy. I have no problem with that. Taker's number 2 with 7. Shawn Michaels is 3rd with 6 points, and then we have Sting and Cena with 3, but Cena was on 2 lists, and Sting was only on 1. So that's a pretty good 4 there, fellas. Like, Stone Cold, Taker, Michaels, and Cena.
I would like to point out that my 4 is Stone Cold, Taker, Michaels, and Cena in that exact order. So me and the algorithm agree with each other.
You're a company man, Dave. You're a company man. I'd just like to throw in a few people that weren't in the company to keep some sort of balance in here.
Yours was more
in my honourable mentions list. I have Ric Flair, who made his name outside of the company. I have Sting. I have Kurt Angle, who spent more time in TNA than WWE. I have Goldberg, WCW man, and I also put Vince.
Well, there we go. Well, end on that note, Vince has got a shout.
Hang on. Another thing, if we're going to do a quick honourable mention run through, I would like to obviously mention Bruno Sammartino, Y2J, Eddie Guerrero, The Rock, who none of us added in, Bret Hart, who none of us added in, Kurt Angle, Randy Savage, The Ultimate Warrior, CM Punk. And also a shout out to one thing I was going to do but ended up not doing was adding a lady into my Mount Rushmore. And the ones I was thinking was obviously one of the 4 horsewomen or AJ Lee or Trish Stratus.
Fair point.
But I ended up not going with a woman, but I probably should have.
Yeah.
I had sort of considered a female wrestler at one point, but
the best thing that's going on at the women's wrestling, like
I really couldn't actually decide who it should be.
Yeah,
I
think if you're going like Trish was the trailblazer, and AJ Lee who was the real starter, or then any of the 4 horsewomen who are the ones sort of taking it forward.
I suppose if you were going by like current events, Becky Lynch probably would deserve an honourable
Charlotte's going to be the one though. She's going to have Ric Flair levels of titles, and that was a good podcast today, fellas. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it was good.
I was waiting for Dave to catch on that Undertaker didn't
make
my list.
I still don't understand how our actual list has worked out the exact same as my list, which makes me very happy.
You're a company man, Dave.
But,
you're John Laurinaitis. I've said it 3 or 4 times.
But how did Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and some of these people, The Rock, Eddie, Bret Hart, not make like Randy Savage,
was a very close one
Goldberg, like these people not make any of our lists. But AJ Styles.
AJ Styles did.
Got in.
We're going to get serious nuclear heat for this here.
This is the thing that takes
for everyone out here, I am a bigger AJ Styles fan. I don't want people starting to think that I'm shitting all over and I'm not an AJ Styles fan because I'm a big AJ Styles fan. But to put him on a list with the top 4 all-time wrestlers.
Do you want me to break it down the way I thought of it, right? I knew that 2 out of the 4 were going to have to be WWE, okay? So I knew that 2 out of the 4 had to be. And I wanted Shawn Michaels to be top because I think he's the best in-ring performer. He's a brilliant gimmicks himself. He's a part of Deadly Factions, all that. And I knew that Stone Cold had to be in.
Yeah.
So I wanted them 2 in, and I wanted to use that 4th spot as the most iconic, like pure all over. And then I was like, I want 2 fellas from outside the company. I want somebody that carried WCW, an iconic wrestler in himself, and I wanted him in. So I slotted him in behind Shawn Michaels. And then I wanted somebody that was maybe like the best indie wrestler of all time. Yeah. And in my opinion, that is
CM Punk.
No, it's not.
Biggest name in indie wrestling, best indie wrestler, CM Punk.
I would like to ask you a question because I don't know the answer to this. When did CM Punk start wrestling?
Early 2000s.
So round about the same time as AJ Styles. Who's still wrestling? Which one? Answer the question. Now you're both looking at me like we've got 4 heads. Who's still wrestling?
I was sitting on the fence that one. I wasn't even debating it.
Alright, the who's still wrestling debate can't really come in there.
Who's still wrestling? He's wrestling in the biggest company. Chris Jericho is wrestling for AEW and looks like the most out of shape person I've ever seen in my life.
Because he fell out with love for wrestling doesn't mean that when he was actually wrestling he wasn't one of the greatest wrestlers in the planet. I'm not saying that.
I'm just saying that in my opinion AJ Styles is the best sort of indie face wrestler to ever wrestle. And then
I wouldn't even say AJ is the best in-ring worker in WWE at the minute.
He's in his mid-40s now too, but he's still brilliant, and you can put him, as Tom said, you can put him with absolutely anybody. He'll make a match. And I know that some of the nerdy wrestling fans out there, some of the real purists, will get on your back, not mine.
Oh, loads of people are getting on my back because
like, young Sean, Sean there. If you're listening, Sean, I know that you might be, and I know that you probably are.
People are going to be getting on our back because we literally all three of us made a Mount Rushmore wrestling, and left out Hulk Hogan, left out Ric Flair, left out.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest. The biggest omission in terms of like us three boys, like considering
it's probably The Rock.
Is The Rock? I can't believe
it's a longevity thing. It's a longevity thing.
But like, I actually can't believe he didn't make anybody's list.
The Rock was actually in mine right before my last change was actually like the last change I made was to take The Rock out of number 4 and put Cena in.
Fair enough. Right, well that was good, fellas. We're an hour and 25 minutes. We've ran a long time. That was a good one, yeah. That was a good podcast. All the nerdy wrestling fans out there, the purists, get on my side and join the AJ Styles.
You know what we wouldn't mind as well, like if anybody is listening, and like feel free to comment and
tell us your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, tell us your Mount Rushmore.
Do all that. That was good. We had a good first week there, fellas, on proper releases. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. I think all the fellas are maybe going to create their own Twitter pages now too. I did that the other night. Keep downloading, subscribe to the channels on Podbean and on YouTube.
If you're on YouTube, hit the notify bell too, and then you get notified anytime we upload the video.
Indeed. So thank you very much for listening, and say goodbye, fellas.
Goodbye, fellas.
Goodbye, everybody.
Cheers, folks. Thank you very much.